While playing a preparty game, I kissed my friend to see what he would say. It was just a joke. Hey everyone, it's me. Well, let's put it this way. Single woman, 27. Right, wait. You just read the title, and yes, I know, and yes, I do remember how it sounds. But trust me, it didn't graduate towards that level of meaning at all. It was just some stupid joke, just a fun joke, during some party game before the actual party begins. Or at least that is what I continued to remind myself. I guess I should start with a little background so it all makes sense. This all happened just a few weeks ago. My friends and I were hanging out before a party, the usual crowd, just messing around. You know the vibe, drinks, music, and a few goofy games to set the mood. One of those nothing serious kind of nights. And I'll be honest, I never thought what happened next would be something I'd still be thinking about days later, let alone something I'd feel like sharing with the internet. And yes, here I am, I suppose, struggling to attempt it. Because of what I never realized was just an innocent joke. Well, now I'm realizing it wasn't that simple. I mean, it still was one of my best friends, a guy I've known for years, and we have never lied to each other. Such a form of joke we used to make all the time, right? It's just joking around, teasing someone. Therefore, when the game dared me to kiss him, it was not at all like just another laugh, another story which can be joked over later. But something about that kiss, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Or maybe I just messed up more than I'd like to admit. So anyway, let me tell you what happened. Okay, so let me bring the haul in here, guys. It was a typical Friday night when we were not in any mood of going out after having a tiring week at work most of the time. We were with my friend Rachel. I think she has become our typical pre-party spot because she has a very nice setup in her basement. She has comfortable couches, the string lights that give the room a very good feel, and the space was just decent enough to accommodate all of us without crowding. There were maybe 10 of us there, just the usual crew. We'd known each other forever in high school, college, some of us even longer. You know, that kind of group where you don't need to try too hard. We're all just there, comfortable, and no one's trying to impress anyone. Drinks were flowing, music was on, and we were all in that relaxed, nothing serious kind of mood. The kind of vibe where you know things might get a little out of hand, but it's all harmless fun. One of my closest friends was there, let me call him Mike. There was no history between Mike and I, we have never dated, so there is no discomfort or tension between the two of us. He's one of those rare individuals whom, once you meet, we find it easy to understand or be understood by them. You know, we always have had this kind of flirty banter, kind of as if we are siblings almost. We were always just friends. He never tried to hit on me or anything like that, so there was never any awkwardness there. Anyway, a few drinks in, someone suggested we play Truth or Dare. It wasn't anything crazy, just people messing around, daring each other to do random stuff. Most of the dares were silly, like calling an ex or doing a terrible dance in the middle of the room. So when it was my turn, I was already laughing, expecting it to be something dumb. But no. Someone, I think it was Rachel, smirked and dared me to kiss Mike. Now, in my head, that was just Mike, so I thought it was no big deal. It's just Mike. We've been teasing each other, and it was not like he would turn serious or something like that. But then everyone was motivating us, or at least it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. They decided it was all just a game, just one of the crazy dares people did, and then everyone would laugh and chuck it off. Therefore, I joined in the fray and embraced it as innocuous as it claimed to be. Now here's the part where I'll admit I do have a boyfriend. I know. Looking back, I can already hear how bad that sounds, but at the moment, it didn't feel like anything serious. It was like a quick, silly thing, nothing I thought I'd feel guilty about. I didn't really think twice about it, to be honest, because it was just a game. We all laughed afterward, and it was done. I figured no harm, no foul. But as I sat back down, I realized that there was something that felt somewhat wrong. Mike did not look surprised, but I could not help thinking if I overstepped the limit, I should not have trespassed. It was just a game, right? Just a quick, silly kiss. Okay, yes, I suppose that's the beginning of this pile of crap right there. So, there I was, sitting in this circle, feeling a little flushed from the drinks and the dares that kept getting weirder and weirder. I'd already seen 2 of my friends do some ridiculous dares, a bad impression of a celebrity, a phone call to someone's ex, you know, classic cringeworthy stuff. Everyone was laughing, everyone was loose, And when Rachel dared me to kiss Mike, I honestly thought, okay, that's nothing. It's just Mike. I could suddenly see people around me watching me smiling, waiting for me to back down or else go for it. And of course, I wasn't going to back down. I'm not going to be the one who is breaking the mood by saying no to a dare. I must admit that I chuckle, roll my eyes and say, okay, let's do it and it will be done. Mike is across the table from me with a smile on his face, like he does not mind at all. He's always been one of the cool guys who just goes with the flow anyway. Frankly, it made it even more convenient to just throw caution to the wind. I scoot over to him, making a show of it like I was actually laughing at the whole situation because, come on, this is Mike. And he's just sitting there, relaxed, with this half smile on his face, almost like he's daring me right back. So I lean in, feeling the room go quiet, and I'm trying to keep it light, you know? Like, I even said something cheesy, like, all right, don't fall in love with me. And everyone laughed. It was all fun and games, really. Nevertheless, the moment we kissed, it was as if something changed within. I know that it might seem stupid to talk about, but to me it was different in that split second. Before I thought it was going to be strange or worse. It was just a kiss, but it wasn't. Sometimes you get this feeling you genuinely don't know you have within you, a feeling that took me by surprise. It was not any fireworks or movie moments or anything, but it was enough to set me off. I became immediately conscious of everything. This feeling was really something else. And the weird part is, Mike didn't look surprised at all. He was calm, like he'd expected it or something. He even leaned in a bit, just enough to let me know he was okay with it. He wasn't laughing it off like I thought he would, and that caught me off guard. Here I was, thinking I'd be the one who had to laugh it off, but he seemed totally chill, almost like this was no big deal. Meanwhile, I felt my face go red, and I knew I had to pull away fast before anyone noticed. So I feel it coming on. I do the stupid half ha-ha to try and laugh it off, like that's enough of that. And they all giggle and change the subject. But still I couldn't get rid of that weird moment. You got the feeling that there could be another Mike, or more correctly, that Mike could change and be different. Like, we've been friends forever and all of a sudden I'm there staring, wondering and experiencing emotions I wasn't cognizant of. And there I had to sit still and pretend that it does not bother me at all. But believe me, it does. The worst part is, as I looked over at him, he just flashed me this little grin, like he knew something I didn't. It was so unsettling because I couldn't tell if he felt the same strange shift or if he was just being, well, Mike. It was like he had this confidence about it, which made me question if this was really just some harmless game, or if maybe there was something there that neither of us had acknowledged before. I attempted to shake it off, to shrug it off as if it doesn't bother me in the least. But then again, what did I do? It was just a game, was it not? Just a quick, silly dare, no big deal. But as the night progressed, I found myself taking these short peeks at him as though I was expecting him to make some move that would suggest he felt the same way. I thought maybe it just was my imagination, that I am too deep into this and it all means nothing. But every time I sneak a glance at him, he sits so composed, as if he didn't and doesn't turn my whole life into its head with the stupid kiss. And here's the part that's been messing with me ever since after that night. It hasn't felt the same between us. I don't know if it's something he picked up on or if it's all in my head, but there's this weird tension now, something I can't quite explain. And yeah, I have a boyfriend, which is making all of this 10 times worse because really, this was supposed to mean nothing. It was supposed to be a joke. But now I'm sitting here trying to figure out whether the whole thing was just a game, or I've messed it up even worse than I thought. All right, so here's where it starts getting messy. I wake up the next morning and the first thing that hits me is this heavy, uncomfortable feeling in my stomach. At first, I can't even place it. I was laughing it off last night thinking, it's no big deal, it was just a game. But in the clear light of day, it doesn't feel so no big deal anymore. It's like this foggy memory of the night before starts coming into focus, and all the little moments that I shrugged off suddenly feel a lot more serious. Yes, I begin to recall the entire interaction, more than likely projecting too much, but I can't seem to control it. This is still playing through my mind, the expression that Mike had on his face when he pulled away after the kiss, the fact that he looked so relaxed, like it was normal for him and me to kiss like that, or underworlds at all. And then there's me, laughing it off like it was just another joke. But really, was it only a joke? But was it only a game? And more importantly, why do I have this strange feeling of guilt in indulging myself with all these? Here's the kicker. I have a boyfriend. I mean, he wasn't there, but even thinking about him finding out makes me feel sick. I keep telling myself, come on, it was nothing. It's not like I actually did anything. But the more I try to brush it off, the more these nagging thoughts start creeping in. I keep telling myself, I'm not the type to kiss my friends. But then I think, well, obviously I did, so what does that mean? And then my mind begins to race off into a succession of considerations. Like, was there a part of me that wanted to kiss him? Was I just hiding behind the game? It had never even occurred to me to look at Mike in that manner. But now that I have done so, I am beginning to question if there was something that I wasn't able to notice for a long time. Perhaps there is a small pit of ego somewhere inside of me that wants me to try and figure out why I did not just chuckle and then turn my back on him. But I did it. The same as though I meant to do it deliberately and for that only reason. The worst part is, every time I think about telling my boyfriend, this wave of anxiety hits. He's a good guy, super serious when it comes to him, and I know he trusts me. But that trust is exactly what makes me feel so terrible. I don't even want to imagine the look on his face if he found out. And then I wonder if I should tell him at all. I mean, it's not like it meant anything, right? But then, if it didn't mean anything, why am I so caught up in it? So I spend the whole morning in this spiral telling myself it's nothing, that I just got too caught up in the moment, that it's fine, we're all adults here, whatever. But I can't help thinking, if it really was fine, why am I sitting here stressing about it? It's like this knot in my stomach that just won't go away, no matter how many times I tell myself, it was just a game. By the time I finally drag myself out of bed and get on with my day, I'm exhausted from all the mental back and forth. And honestly, I feel even worse than before. The more I try to push it out of my head, the more it gets on my nerves. It's like I'm stuck in this loop of guilt and doubt, and no matter how hard I try to let it go, it's not working. And I keep questioning myself the same thing over and over. Was it really just a joke? Or did I cross a line I can't uncross? After some days after the pre-party, I was honestly just hoping things would go back to normal. Like maybe I could convince myself it was just a silly mistake and we'd all laugh about it and move on. But of course, that's not how things are made out to be. So I'm hanging out with some friends again, and Mike's there too. Everything seems fine, everyone's just talking, and I'm trying my best to act totally casual. I don't want anyone picking up on the fact that this stupid little kiss has been on my mind way more than I'd like to admit. I'm just praying Mike doesn't bring it up, thinking maybe he's forgotten or brushed it off. But then what? He strolls over and he has this silly grin on his face. He smirks at me like there's no other person in the room and says, "So, about that kiss?" in this provocative way. I laughed and made a joke of it, thinking he meant it in a humorous way, and I was like, "Oh, come on, Mikkel, please. Don't you have it out of your mind by now?" But he doesn't let it go. Instead, he gives me this half smile and says, "Hey, I'm just saying it wasn't so bad, was it?" And there's this look in his eyes, something I hadn't noticed before. It's like he's testing me, seeing how I'll react. And suddenly I can feel myself panicking inside. I keep it cool on the outside, but my brain is racing, trying to figure out if he's just messing with me or if he's actually serious. Here I attempt to shrug it off, though I mumble something like, "Oh, please, Mike," as I do. It was just a silly dare, don't get any ideas. But it just puts its hand up and says, "Well, you never know. Could always happen again." And he lets the words hang in that empty field. And at this, I get this wave of confusion, and to be quite frank, some level of fear. Because, you see, until then I was telling myself that it was not serious. Perhaps it's just a game, this kiss. But now, this silly behavior makes me question whether maybe I had awakened something that I should not have. And here's the weird part. There's this tiny part of me that feels curious. Like, This is Mike we're talking about, one of my closest friends, and suddenly he's looking at me in this way that's not just friendly. I feel this mix of guilt, curiosity, and something I can't even explain. Part of me wants to back away and just pretend nothing happened, but another part is wondering what he's really thinking. We continued talking about it, and he is laughing this off. However, there is this tension which I never had before. For some reason, it's as though every word has 2 layers of meaning, and I am just smiling patiently while inside my head I am running wild. He utters something like this. "It was really a surprise when you planted that kiss on me, you know." He says, "Didn't think you had it in you." And I can feel my face go red because now it seems that he is provoking me, that he wants it to happen again. I try to steer the conversation back to normal, saying, "Come on, Mike, let's not make this weird." But he just grins and says, "Who says it has to be weird?" And now I'm feeling this sinking feeling, like maybe I've set off something I can't easily take back. He's always been this fun, easygoing guy, but now there's something different in his tone, something that makes me realize he might actually be serious. The worst part is, I don't even know how I feel about it. I mean, I've got a boyfriend, and I know I shouldn't even be thinking about this, but there's this little voice in the back of my mind wondering, what if? It's like I'm torn between feeling guilty and feeling something else I can't even admit to myself. We finish the conversation and he walks off, leaving me there, feeling completely thrown. I thought he'd just laugh it off like I'd been trying to, but now I'm realizing that maybe he sees this as more than just a joke. And honestly, I'm not sure what to do with that. As the night goes on, I keep catching myself glancing over at him, trying to read his expressions, trying to figure out if he's still thinking about it. And every time he looks my way, he's got this little smirk, this calm confidence that's so different from the Mike I thought I knew. And I hate that it's making me question everything. I don't know if he's serious, if he's playing with me, or if I'm just imagining all of this. By the end of the night, I'm exhausted from all the mental back and forth. I didn't expect any of this. I thought it would be a one-off, a silly dare we'd all forget. But now, I'm realizing I might have opened up something that isn't just going to go away. There's this tension between us that wasn't there before, and it's making me uncomfortable, like I've crossed into territory I wasn't ready for. And that's the part that scares me the most, because it's not just about the kiss anymore. It's about the fact that now, every time I look at him, there's this unspoken thing between us, something I'm not sure I know how to handle. And deep down, I know I've started something I can't easily undo. Alright, so here's where things start getting a little messier. A few days after the whole pre-party game incident, I'm hanging out with some of the same friends who were there that night. We're all just talking, nothing too serious, when one of them suddenly brings up the kiss. You know how friends are? They just can't resist poking fun whenever they get the chance. So, naturally, they start teasing me about it like, "Ooh, we saw you and Mike," and throwing in these sly smiles. At first, I'm laughing it off, acting like it's no big deal, but inside, I'm panicking, because I don't want this turning into a big thing, especially not with my boyfriend in the picture. And I keep thinking, if they're talking about it so openly, what if word gets back to him? Then, as if on cue, my boyfriend's best friend, let's call him Jake, overhears the teasing and looks at me with that suspicious look. Jake's a good guy, but he's also protective, especially when it comes to his friends. So he casually asks, "So, is there something going on with you and Mike?" He tries to make it sound like a joke, but I can tell he's genuinely curious. My heart starts racing, and I can feel myself getting defensive, but I manage to laugh it off, saying, "Oh, come on, Jake, it was a silly dare. You know how those games get." But that answer doesn't exactly put his mind at ease. He just nods, still watching me like he's not entirely convinced. And now I'm feeling paranoid, like I need to make sure everyone sees it as just a joke, especially since Jake is bound to talk to my boyfriend at some point. Fast forward a couple of days, and I'm with my boyfriend, just hanging out when he brings it up. He doesn't come right out and say anything, but he starts asking these subtle, almost casual questions like, "Hey, did anything weird happen at Rachel's pre-party?" Or, "I heard you guys were playing some drinking games." He's trying to sound nonchalant, but I can tell he's fishing for something. And then the guilt starts coming to me, that is when I begin feeling so guilty that I want to do everything I can to earn the displeasure. I want it to be pure, but I also do not want him to think it was anything more than what it happened to be. So I just sweep it under the rug while doing something like, "Oh, you don't have to worry about it, babe. It is just a game. You know how these things get." I have learned that in order to avoid his anger, I try to laugh it off nervously like it hasn't affected me, but I am really just hoping and wishing he drops the subject. He doesn't push it further, but I can see it in his eyes he's not totally convinced. There's this weird tension now, and I'm left feeling unsettled. I keep telling myself it was just a joke, just a game, but with all these people talking and questioning, it's starting to feel way more serious than I meant it to. And the worst part? I can't shake this feeling that something's shifted, like I've crossed a line that's starting to blur everything around me. Well, a few days pass by, and to be really honest with you, I can't get over it all. It is as if I have created the entrance to a place I never intended on creating in the first place, and I can't lock the door. I constantly try to reassure myself that it was merely a kiss, a stupid dare, but those words don't ring true anymore. I am feeling this constant pain deep down in my belly, and as much as I want to remove it from my head, the memory comes flooding back. The worst part is, it's not just guilt, it's this weird, unsettling mix of emotions. I mean, yeah, I feel guilty. I've got a boyfriend who's been nothing but good to me, who's always been there, always reliable. But then, every time I think about Mike and the way he responded to the kiss, there's this spark of something else. I don't know what to call it, attraction, curiosity. Whatever it is, it's confusing, and it's making me question things I never thought I'd question. I keep going over my relationship with my boyfriend in my head. We've been together for a couple of years now, and it's been good, safe, comfortable, but maybe that's part of the problem. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love him. But sometimes I wonder if we got a little too comfortable, like we're just coasting along. There's no spark, no excitement, and I hate myself for even thinking that because he's a genuinely good guy, you know? He's cute, steady, and he's been there through everything. But lately, I can't shake the feeling that maybe I've started taking him for granted. And then there's Mike. Mike, who's always been just a friend, suddenly seems different. It's like the kiss changed something in the way I see him, like it flipped a switch that I didn't even know was there. I keep wondering if maybe I felt something for him all along and just didn't realize it. Or maybe it's because he's so different from my boyfriend. He's unpredictable, fun, always making me laugh. He's that person who doesn't take anything too seriously, and I guess that's a part of what makes him so appealing. It's like he's the opposite of everything stable and predictable in my life. I know I shouldn't be thinking about Mike this way. I tell myself over and over again that it's ridiculous, that it was just a kiss, just a stupid game. But there's this little voice in the back of my head whispering, what if? What if there's more to it than I thought? What if there's something there I've been ignoring? I keep pushing those thoughts away, calling them irrational, telling myself that it's just my mind playing tricks on me, but the thoughts keep coming back no matter how hard I try to shut them down. And the guilt? It's exhausting. It is as if I'm living this secret two different lives in my own mind. On one hand, I want to be the perfect girlfriend to whoever he is with, a woman who will never dare look at another man, let alone date him. But then, on the other hand, there's this nagging curiosity, this tiny part of me that keeps yammering all the time and asking, what if I simply relax? What if I didn't think about it so much in terms of right and wrong and just saw where this could conceivably go? But then reality hits and I remind myself of everything I stand to lose. My boyfriend trusts me. He doesn't deserve any of this. And honestly, I don't even know if Mike feels the same way. For all I know, he's just as confused as I am. Or maybe he's already moved on and forgotten about it. It's not like he's reached out to me or tried to make anything happen since that night. So maybe I'm the only one still stuck on it, overthinking every little detail. I keep telling myself I need to let this go, that I need to forget about it, stop analyzing, stop questioning, but it's easier said than done. Every time I think I'm moving on, something pulls me right back. Whether it's a memory, a random thought, or even just a passing what if. So here I am, wrestling with these feelings I never asked for, torn between guilt and this irrational curiosity. I keep trying to convince myself it's nothing, that I can brush it off and move on. But deep down, I know it's not that simple. It's like this weird, tangled mess of emotions that I can't make sense of, and I have no idea what to do with it. And honestly, it's exhausting. All I know is I can't let this go on forever. Sooner or later, I'm going to have to face this and figure out what I really want. But right now, I'm just stuck, trying to make sense of a situation that feels like it's spinning out of my control. So, after everything, I really thought this whole thing would just blow over. I thought I could brush it off, put it behind me, and move on. But, of course, life never works that way, right? One night, I'm just hanging out with my boyfriend. We're talking, catching up on each other's day when I start to notice that he seems off. He's quieter than usual, kind of avoiding eye contact, and there's this tension in the air that I can't quite put my finger on. Finally, he just looks at me and says, "So, what's going on with you and Mike?" And that's when my stomach drops. I can feel my heart start racing because I know exactly what he's talking about. Apparently, he's heard some of the teasing from our mutual friends, and he's been putting the pieces together. He's not yelling or accusing me of anything. He's just asking, but I can see in his eyes that he's hurt, and somehow that makes it even worse. I try to brush it off, laughing a little too casually and saying, "Oh, come on, it was just a joke. It was during a game and everyone was messing around. It didn't mean anything." I'm hoping he'll just take my word for it and let it go, but he doesn't. He just sits there looking at me, and finally he says, "But why would you risk us for a joke?" And that question, it hits hard. I'm sitting there trying to come up with an answer, but I honestly don't know what to say. He's right. I mean, why did I do it? Why would I risk everything we have for something that, in the moment, I thought was just harmless fun? The conversation gets tense, and we start talking about trust and boundaries. He tells me that he's always felt secure with me, that he's never questioned my loyalty, but now he's starting to feel like maybe he doesn't know me as well as he thought, and I can see how much this is hurting him, which only makes me feel worse. I try to explain that it wasn't about him, that it was just this silly spur-of-the-moment thing, but I can tell he's not buying it. And that's when I realize I might have really taken him for granted. He's always been the calm, steady one, the guy who doesn't get jealous or insecure, and I guess I just assumed he'd always be that way, no matter what. But seeing him like this, I realize that my actions actually matter to him, and that I've hurt him in a way I never meant to. And that hurts me too. He looks at me, and there's this sadness in his eyes, like he doesn't even know how to look at me the same way anymore. And he says, "I just don't understand why you'd do something like that, even if it was just a joke. Don't you care about us?" That question stings more than anything because, of course, I care. I've always cared. But sitting there trying to defend myself, I realize that maybe I didn't care enough to think about how my actions would affect him. I don't have a good answer for him. All I can do is apologize and try to reassure him, telling him over and over that it didn't mean anything, that it was just a moment of stupidity on my part. But I can see that he's not fully convinced. It was something friends love to do when they are planning to have fun. As he walks away, I feel this overwhelming wave of regret. I never wanted to hurt him, never wanted to make him question our relationship. But now, because of one thoughtless decision, I might have jeopardized everything we have. And the worst part is, I'm not sure if he'll ever really be able to trust me the same way again. After our conversation, my boyfriend said he wanted some time out, saying he just wanted some time to think about time, which I never wished to hear. I knew I erred, and that was the time the feelings began to sink in hard and deep. You know the feeling when suddenly a weight comes and you can't let go of the regret? That was me. He didn't break up with me or anything, but the way he looked at me, I could tell he wasn't sure about us anymore. and that was brutal. Knowing I'd put doubt in his mind, doubt about our whole relationship, it just felt awful. I realized that maybe I hadn't taken his feelings seriously enough, and now it wasn't just my relationship that was shaken. I was shaken too. And then a few days pass and I'm attempting to honor his request and allow for the space he needs, even though it is not easy for me. It's this strange combination of loss and isolation, which is quite like having comfort knocked on its head and being replaced with guilt. Thus, I am just sort of left on my own to relive the memories in my head and hope to turn back time. Then, out of the blue, Mike reaches out. He must have sensed that something was off because he sent me a text, something casual like, "Hey, you doing okay?" Part of me wanted to talk to him, to vent and get his perspective, but the bigger part of me knew that talking to him wasn't the answer. He's the reason all of this happened, even if it wasn't his fault directly. So I end up keeping it short, thanking him for checking in, but telling him I'm fine, even though I'm definitely not fine. And that's pretty much how things are left. My boyfriend's taking his time, and I'm still waiting here, feeling like the sole culprit for the lengthy, tangled scenario. I was always under the impression that a joke was a joke and was an easygoing thing that was funny and could be put to light. But now, it is clear to me that it is all about a few tweaks here and there and the whole world can shift out of orbit. And the worst part, I have no idea if I will be given the opportunity to fix it. Update. So here I am, a few weeks out from everything, and as much as one might expect that life is slowly returning to some sort of normal, that is not quite the case. Now my boyfriend has definitely left me alone. He said he didn't deserve to feel the way I made him feel, and I shouldn't have taken him for granted. He has stopped talking to me, like completely stopped it. I believe that right now, he knows that he can choose to trust me or not, and to be truthful. As for Mike, I haven't really seen him since that night. He reached out a couple of times, just casual, hope you're good kind of texts, but I kept it short. I realized that hanging out with him would just make things even messier, and I've got enough to deal with. I miss the old friendship we had, but I guess that's just another thing I ruined with one impulsive choice. Thinking it through, it seems so shocking that one dare can inevitably change so many things. I believed it was just a kiss. It was just a dare that people do, and then the next morning nobody thinks about it again. But instead, it grew into something a lot more than I could have ever anticipated. And now all I'm left with is trying to find out what my boyfriend does, and if there is anything left of my friendship with my friends. If there's one thing I've learned through all this, it's that some jokes aren't worth the risk. Boundaries and trust are so much easier to break than they are to rebuild, and I hate that I had to learn that the hard way. I thought it was just a game, but it's clear now that I crossed a line that I can't just step back from. So, yeah, guess next time I'll think twice before playing any more games. Bye, guys.